In today's video, we are going to be talking about Dave Chappelle's new comedy special, reviewing it. We're also going to give a rebuke to the weak ninnies who are offended, as well as give you a greater context on the bigger symbolic hyper-nuclear warhead that was just shot at social justice warrior cancel culture. There's a lot to talk about specifically just about this comedy special, which of course has a lot of underlying issues that we are going to get into in this specific video, provided to you by, of course, independent media. And just like most independent media that dares to question our reality, because of that, we are rubbing our... we're demonetized. And that's why we rely on your support with you purchasing our merchandise to keep our operation going. And if it wasn't for you buying a shirt, we wouldn't be here. And we only are because of you. And that's why, thank you everyone purchasing a t-shirt, which you could get in the description of this video. Now, this new special that just came out yesterday is an hour and 5 minutes long, called Sticks and Stones. Of course, many people associate with the very common and popular childhood chant, which goes, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." A saying that I would say has long been forgotten, especially by today's modern day social media addicted society that created a whole industry around being offended while chasing the victimhood dollar. And I would say this special just absolutely rejects that. Not even just rejects that, eviscerates that kind of prevalent culture that is predominant on social media. And before we get into the nuance and some of the bigger, finer points being made here, before getting into the larger kind of symbolic rebuke of the social justice warrior cancel culture, I just wanted to say that I will do my best not to reveal any of the jokes in case you have not watched the special already, and that there is also a special hidden bonus feature within the Netflix special, which if you actually finish watching the hour and 5 minute special, there is actually another bonus 25-minute long secret show that you can't find and you can't search for, but is only available after you watch all the credits. That is called Epilogue, the Punchline, which is mainly Q&A between many of the audience members at a second show, but still has a lot of interesting nuanced points in there, including one when he is asked what is he going to do if Donald Trump wins the presidency again, which again, I will not answer because I don't want to ruin the punchline, but it definitely wasn't the answer that a lot of people were expecting. And I have to say, Dave Chappelle, in his comedy special, definitely took us to many unexpected areas of discussion. He starts off talking about how very successful people commit suicide and very unsuccessful people who are considered losers don't. And then, of course, he gets into the outrage culture and then talks about Michael Jackson in a way where literally you could see where he's going, and you could see the audience, even some people in the audience verbally were saying no. They were seeing the trajectory where he was going to, the limits that he was pushing with this particular joke that makes people respond to him thinking that he's either very brash or very brave for the way that he conducted himself during this comedy special. But you yourself, as you're watching this, you're saying to yourself, please don't go there. No! And I believe this is what makes Dave Chappelle the standout, incredibly creative comedian that he is that he's willing to go to places to talk about things and issues that are absolutely not safe zones, that are uncomfortable. But I believe the fact that he is willing to go there makes him the great comedian that he is. Because he is so brave and unapologetic, just like other historic famous comedians before him, like George Carlin, and of course also Bill Hicks. Starting conversations that are truly unique because no one else is willing to go there but him. It's very in your face. It's something that, even particular context that he brought up that I completely disagreed with him about, I appreciated because of bigger principles behind it. And of course, mainstream media responded to all of this just like expected, being outraged with his criticism of outrage culture. There's even a short clip released by Netflix where he talks about how people's careers could be destroyed by outrage culture. There was another clip that Netflix actually even deleted, or at least it looks like it's deleted. Again, we still don't know if it was done exactly by Netflix or YouTube themselves. And again, the mainstream media response is just as shameful, with Vice being the most prominent article showing up when you Google Dave Chappelle and news. Vice, the hipster social justice warrior rag that is controlled by special interests, ran a headline. And this is the second thing you find when you look on Google News for Dave Chappelle. And it's that, this is the title, you can definitely skip Dave Chappelle's new Netflix special, Sticks and Stones. And the second I saw this morning, I woke up and I'm like, I need to watch Sticks and Stones. Vice doesn't really understand what's happening here. They're going for the kind of woke, rage, bait, click industry that we've been talking about that has been so thoroughly exposed by people who have been used and abused by this system, where, of course, big special interest news organizations pretend like they care about an issue. In reality, they just care about the clicks. They care about the attention. They care about the ad revenue. And that's exactly a big industry that is directly under assault by Dave Chappelle in his latest special. So obviously there's going to be a rebuke of it. Obviously there's going to be some ninnies who are going to be offended by all of this, with their byline here saying, of course, quote, the comedian doubles down on misogyny, transphobia in both the special and the hidden bonus scene that follows. I mean, come on, really? It's a frickin' comedy show. And yes, Dave Chappelle definitely does poke those buttons. I mean, not just poke. He goes out of his ways, and Rick James slaps those specific issues in the face.
What is the five fingers say to the face? What? Slap!
And of course, we have to understand Vice did this and is continuing the same dreading old talking points, claiming offense. They were doing this all the way back in 2017. I mean, this is just such a tiresome, lazy, poor, pathetic excuse of a publication that is literally just trying to emotionally manipulate you, not only to destroy free speech, but to destroy anyone standing up for it. And again, symbolically, I believe Dave Chappelle is one of those individuals pushing the Overton issue, the Overton window, with what is acceptable to be talked about and what is not acceptable to be talked about. And everything should be acceptable to be talked about. You can definitely see where I'm particularly standing on this issue. And we have to understand here, this is something that major special interests are gunning after Dave Chappelle for. They want to ruin him. They want to take him down, just like they did countless numbers of other individuals for the crime of being honest, trying to silence people. And again, all the other rags are just following suit. You have the main talking points surrounding the jokes that Dave Chappelle was talking about, specifically Michael Jackson. You have TMZ here with the title, Dave Chappelle doesn't believe Michael Jackson accusers in new stand-up. People.com, Dave Chappelle says, I do not believe Michael Jackson accusers in new comedy special. Daily Beast, Dave Chappelle calls Michael Jackson. I can't really say that on YouTube. See, I can't even honestly talk to you. You guys have to read, and I can't even communicate because of this bull crap censorship cancel culture that is just ridiculous, that we and many other people have been victims of, have been completely censored, downranked, deranked, demonetized, and hidden from the rest of the world because of this bull. And yes, Dave Chappelle made those very specific references. They were very outrageous. It is something that I don't personally agree with, but he also did talk about how Michael Jackson had particular interest in looking at buttocks holes, and went into greater detail about more inappropriate things that Michael Jackson did do. So these titles are definitely not fair to conclude. But again, the conversation shouldn't be about the nuance. The conversation should be about the principles here, which are a lot more important to me and should be to everyone else. Because if you don't believe in freedom of speech for your enemies or even people you disagree with, you don't believe in freedom of speech at all. And this is a key pivotal issue that is up for debate. Another topic that Dave Chappelle didn't hide from is talking about the trans community. Very contentious issue that other comedians like Joe Rogan have had specific big problems because of when referencing, when talking about this trans community, which again, people need to understand here. Making fun and misgendering people who are trans in the United States, in particular areas, in Canada, in the United Kingdom, is absolutely illegal. Whether you're making a joke or not, if you misgender someone in the predominant Western world, you will go to jail or have to face a hefty fine just for your words, just because someone decided I will be offended by what you said. And this is not a society that I want to live in. I met individuals randomly, not even on purpose, but randomly in the middle of the streets in the United Kingdom who had to go through huge legal proceedings because of innocent words, not even meant to hurt people, but this is completely getting out of hand. And to see Dave Chappelle push this issue as he did, Even in the special afterwards, a 25-minute special afterwards, he talked about a trans person that he met and the way that that person dealt with his humor about trans, specifically mentioning a previous New York Times article that criticized Dave Chappelle earlier this year. In January of 2019, there was a New York Times article that talked about how Dave Chappelle, making fun of R. Kelly for his abuse, somehow normalized R. Kelly and somehow helped him. And then this person made the same reference, this trans person that Dave Chappelle was talking about how if he's making fun of trans people, he's normalizing trans people by the same logic that the New York Times presents. But that's, of course, is not an issue because that's a fact that doesn't matter, because what matters is emotions, as demonstrated by Vice, as demonstrated by the mainstream media reaction to all of this, which again is just nonsensical, non-factual, based on just mental instability that decides to be triggered rather than to experience something that could be thought-provoking, that could be intellectual, that could lead to a greater understanding. I mean, look at this. Look at this. They're calling him, this guy, allegedly who's a writer, he's saying he's bitter, he's borderline conservative, misogynist. And again, this is all the fight or flight reaction that many people have spurred onto themselves when they hear opinions that are not theirs. This is normal. This is how the news industry runs. They play on your fears, they play on your emotions, they play on your triggers so they can get your attention. We are wired biologically and physically to be ready for dangers. In our society, we don't have many dangers. So the media takes advantage of that and uses it to generate revenue. I'm getting into the kind of very minutiae here, but this is important to understand during these larger conversations, during, of course, these individuals, sorry, I had to respond this way, that can't handle someone's words. So obviously this is an issue very near and dear to my heart, but we have to understand here, Dave Chappelle took a risk. As even the Washington Examiner says, this may get him canceled. He offended a lot of people. He offended heroin-addicted whites when he talked about the opioid epidemic, the LGBT community, the Chinese Americans, pro-lifers. He did it all. And good. I'm happy he did. And again, to nitpick, to try to attack him for doing so is just completely backwards. I mean, look at this headline. But again, it is promoted by Google News. Google News is promoting all of this. They're the ones pushing a lot of this hyperbolic, divide and conquer, culture war nonsense that is sadly in our dialectic. That sadly can't be ignored. But look at this headline. Dave Chappelle's provocations have turned predictable. I mean, come on. And the bigger response here that Dave Chappelle kind of capitalized on during his special is, you clicked to watch him. You decided. You chose to watch him. That was your choice. I particularly enjoyed it. Can I watch something and enjoy it? Or is that too much for you to handle and you need to make sure that people get canceled? I mean, seriously, this is the logical kind of understanding here. I enjoy watching this. You don't have to. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to click on it. You can understand where a person is coming from. You now know where Dave Chappelle is coming from. He's going to release a new special. You have a choice. You can watch it. You can not. You could be offended. You could be not. That's all dependent on you, the individual, that, of course, is promoting the larger idea of self-responsibility, which somehow has gone out the door with the nonsensical political social system that we're all under now that prioritizes big daddy government doing everything for you. Again, I'm not going to go into a whole rant about government, but let's talk about some of the other stuff that was discussed in this particular special. There was support for other comedians like Louis C.K., like Kevin Hart. He made a lot of jokes about how if we were totally equal, the WNBA would be playing with the NBA, but they're not. And talked about other issues that make you just wonder just a little bit where our society is going. A lot of the bigger issues, a lot of the bigger kind of points were made when specifically talking about Kevin Hart and the Oscars. We made very similar arguments like he did during his special surrounding the ridiculousness that someone could be attacked and have to apologize profusely for bad jokes made 10 years ago. But in the special, Dave Chappelle came out and made very pro-choice regarding abortion arguments, but also with a caveat saying if you're pro-choice, you should also be anti-child support. Talked about how he is not a fan of guns, but has many of them. He ended it with Juicy Smollett. I'm not going to ruin any of the jokes. Don't worry. I'm not going to ruin any of the jokes. The end with Jusei Smollett was very, very good. And then, of course, the middle portion was preoccupied about very funny, but also very serious talks about the opioid epidemic, which he compared to the crack epidemic with the black community, since, of course, many white people, which he called the whites, are suffering from the opioid epidemic. And if you remember, because we covered this specifically, Dave Chappelle doesn't shy away from issues that are never really brought up on the mainstream media, but do deserve a lot of attention. He talked about, previously before, not on this one, the CIA bringing in drugs, secret U.S. government experiments and projects like the Tuskegee experiment. He talked about MK Ultra. He talked about COINTELPRO. He talked about government assassinations and how all of his heroes were either killed by government officials or slandered in the media, and doesn't shy away from talking about the intelligence community, especially surrounding the CIA. All things that are real, but they're never taken seriously. They're laughed at by, of course, the mainstream media. During the hidden bonus feature, he also talked about how, when he was asked specifically who would win the 2020 presidential election, that it's not looking good for the Democrats, especially with the speech and what they are talking about right now. And that ultimately Trump looks a lot tougher than, of course, Joe Biden. And I'll ruin one joke, so spoiler warning. I'll ruin one specific joke. When asked what he was going to do if Trump wins, what is he going to do when Trump wins the 2020 election, Dave Chappelle responded and said, I'll get a tax break, which, of course, brings back to his previous special, The Bird Revelations, where he talked about the difference not between black and white America, but between rich and poor America, which is definitely more prevalent and more important, and something that doesn't go along with the mainstream media-controlled narratives out there. I mean, in his previous special, he brought up Harvey Weinstein, he brought up Kevin Spacey, he brought up issues that were deserving to be mentioned and were direct criticism of the establishment. Again, this is all on the heels of him doing a whole charity concert in honor of shooting victims just right before his Netflix special came out. Again, this is brilliant marketing, by the way. There's no way a rational thinking man could look at this special, could understand the words that are being said there, especially if this person, man or woman, is emotionally stable. There's no way any human being could look at this who has control of their emotions and not laugh. And again, that's just my opinion. I may be completely wrong, and if you think so, well, that's your problem. But if you do want to voice it in the comment section below. I don't censor comments. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the feedback. I love having these kind of honest, rational conversations because they lead towards the bigger progression, the bigger understanding, the bigger prosperity of all of us by not cheating us a real intellectual conversation that has been compromised because of emotions. So again, thank you so much for supporting us and wearing our t-shirts and getting the message out there to the general public. And because we work for you, and because we're still here, because we're somehow still existing and we're making content because of you, this is why. Love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.